apparently I can be heard if I'm bleeding. I'm gonna have to get better at the game, allegedly. Hello everyone and welcome to BearTalks, and today we are joined by Sergio Gil.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me here.
And Sergio has joined us over from Code 351, the team behind Project Haven. And this game is presenting itself as a classic squad tactics. I'm just wondering, what is the inspiration behind the classic squad tactics?
Yeah, so we've drawn inspiration from a lot of the older games of the genre, so the classics. That is Jagged Alliance 2, Silent Storm, the original XCOM games. It's something that we feel that hasn't been really done too much lately, or at all. And we wanted to bring that back, give the player a more deep tactical experience that, is not really seen lately. So yeah, that was really the main inspiration.
Excellent. So I'm just wondering, as I've said before, we had some audio issues, so we're kind of covering old ground. But we do have the use of a third-person aiming system. So what brought that into the game? Because actually, it is offered, as I found out, in the originals. But what brought that into Project Haven?
Yeah, so we were trying a lot of different mechanics at the beginning of the development, and because we didn't want to just rehash the exact same gameplay as the old ones, we wanted to bring a modern twist to it. And not only did we do the third person, but we also did the gridless movement. We don't have a grid, much like those old games. But on the third person, we found that while it doesn't really give you any specific advantage over the top-down aiming mode, because you can still aim, at all the body parts and all that, but it gives you a level of immersion that we wanted to bring to the game, that we thought that really fit what we were going for with the game, which is, a deep, immersive world, a believable world.
How has that immersion come through into that world building, that story aspect of the game?
Yeah, so we wanted to not only do a strong gameplay component, a strong tactical component, but we also wanted to bring a strong narrative component to the game, much like Shadowrun or the Divinity series. We wanted to merge all those two together. So immersion was something that we thought of from the beginning. Make the world believable, make a very strong storyline, and merge that with a deep tactical combat and gameplay system.
So I will say, actually, that brings up a point. I was obviously in preparation for this, I started watching the latest trailer and such that's been brought up, which we'll get to soon. But I did notice in the comments, someone was saying they were so thankful that you hadn't brought in aliens and robots, and that this game really was a little bit more grounded in real life. Was that kind of important for you as you were developing this game?
Yeah, we feel like currently there's a lot of games in the genre that are more, either fantasy like Divinity, or very sci-fi, Phoenix Point, and then you have even games in the past like Phantom Doctrine, but you don't really have any like sort of modernish looking games with modern mechanics. Although the military shooter is very popular, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and all that, you don't really see tactical games explore that area so much. So we thought that it could be a good setting for the game, and we're happy that people appreciate it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, personally, I wouldn't have been against robots per se, but aliens maybe not. But I do think the aesthetic of the world was really what drew me in, all the way back when this was a Greenlight. That was the thing that really stood out for me, was just the environments. Kind of, where is the inspiration from that come from then?
So the inspiration for the environments and the look of the game, it's very Asian-esque cyberpunkish, a toned down cyberpunk. We didn't go for like the crazy sci-fi cyberpunk with enhancements and neon lights everywhere and all that. Went more for the original cyberpunk, which is that Johnny Mnemonic, the Blade Runner series, that more dirty, grimy, poor look. So that's kind of like what we went for, and we thought, we really like these types of movies and this type of look. So we went that way.
It definitely comes across. I think the first thing I said when I saw this was Blade Runner. Yeah, pretty much bang on. Excellent. Well, drawing this to the actual gameplay again, there are an insane amount of features and skills and mechanics at play within each part of this game. Kind of shockingly so. Like, I really can't wait to get into the full release to see just how much is available. But how has it been from a developer's perspective, sort of implementing and balancing all those different aspects?
Yeah, it's not easy for sure, and we're still not 100% there. It's something that we're constantly dealing with and tweaking, and it's not only the balancing; it's also presenting all that information to the player. Because sometimes the balancing is there, but the player may not understand what's going on because it doesn't have the necessary information to to get to that conclusion. So it's something that we're dealing with, and that's why we've been doing so many playtests, is that we want to make sure that we present all the necessary information in such a way that you can make the proper strategic decision and not feel frustrated because you didn't really know something was going to happen.
Oh, that's very fair. And actually, I wanted to grab that the showing the UI basically elements of this game. Because there has been an update to the UI.
Yeah.
What brought about that update? Was that player feedback, do you feel, or was that something you've been aiming for a while?
Yeah, well, it's something that we've been aiming for a while, since we know that the game is not feature complete yet, and even in these playtests, the game is not feature complete. So we know that we will have to fit more things in the UI. The question is, how do we fit those things while still remaining, intelligible and not completely cluttered? Because we're trying not to have, way too many elements in the UI, because that will just cause the players to be, oh, this is way too much. I don't know what's going on. So we're trying to keep it condensed, but at the same time, give you enough information. So it's definitely a tricky balance, and it's something that, again, just like the actual gameplay balance, something that we're constantly tweaking and testing and seeing if we're going in the right direction. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. How would you say, kind of, it's quite a while ago now, but how would you say it was when you first came to set this up? Like, how has the process been, essentially?
The game?
Yeah, for developing that UI and getting that information across in what is now looking, well, for starters, a lot better than the original Greenlight demonstration, but also a lot clearer. Like, it genuinely has come a long way.
Sure. So I mean, the Greenlight one, that was really put together in just a couple of weeks. We had the idea for the game, and we thought, like, okay, let's put this up on Greenlight, see what people think, see if it's something that it's worth exploring. And it blew up really quick on Greenlight. But the UI was definitely just thrown together, just to have the actions and like the basic idea. It was not something that was completely thought out. And the styling was really, really bad. But yeah, we improved on that, and and we've been improving it since we came back to Steam in 2019. We've been improving the UI, and it's been changing. If you look at the earlier screenshots, it's different from what it is today, even though the styling is similar. But it's an iterative process. It's something that you constantly keep tweaking, and as you update the features of the game and you get player feedback, it just keeps changing. So yeah, it's something that you don't think once and do it and that's it. It's something that definitely evolves and grows and all that.
Excellent. And I'm going to jump into that now because this is something I wanted to get into, is the fact that this game was Greenlight. And I didn't realize it came back in 2019 because I believe I've actually, I'm not too sure if it was you, but I've messaged Code 351. I made a video on this game. I said, like, this disappeared from my radar. I had no idea what was happening, and then suddenly it was back, and I just jumped on board. What was it like then, going from this Greenlight project? As you said, it blew up, and I can remember there was a lot of hype around it, and it did kind of disappear for a little.
Yeah. So again, since the idea for the game was thrown together in just, it was a couple of months since we started playing around in engine and then having the green light, we didn't really have a lot of things put together, and again, it takes a long time to develop, and we're just two, and it definitely makes the journey quite longer that way. And particularly because we wanted to have so many things in the game, so we definitely took a few years to get the idea together, make sure everything was cohesive and made sense, and it's what we wanted to do. And then when we were ready, this was late 2019, September 2019, we published our actual Steam page, and we've been live and giving updates since then. But it was definitely a period of discovery and figuring exactly what the game was. Yeah.
Interesting. So when you've returned now, how has the community reaction been? How has it been at meeting the old fans and gaining the new ones?
It's been really amazing. I mean, the game is something that I would have liked to play had it been available when we started developing, and something that I still like to play today. But meeting other people that share the exact same passion for these types of games, it's just amazing, and the feedback that the community has given thus far, and all the help they've given, it's just incredible, really.
Oh, really good to hear. I know I was giving my feedback throughout the demo when I could. No idea if it was helpful though.
Every feedback is helpful, truly. Even if it's something that people think, oh, I'm sure someone else has already said it or whatever, just getting that repetition and seeing how often a comment is brought up, it's definitely very helpful for us to define this is a priority, this is something that we can defer for later. It's every little bit of feedback helps for sure.
Well, this might be pushing my luck a little far here, but do you have any examples of particular features that have been exceptional, or maybe people weren't too into?
Yeah, so our cover system initially back in 2019, on our first playtest, the cover system was still not great. It was a bit of a weird, not the cover, but the third-person aiming system while in cover. It wasn't all that. It was usable, and it definitely worked, but it had some issues with consistency, and that's something that players brought up real quick. And then we had like this, I don't know, a week of discussing how exactly it should play out and all that with the community. We implemented really quick, we tested again, and everyone has been much happier since then. So that's one example, but there's been more, particularly like with balance and people thinking like, should it do more damage, should it be more accurate, what's the balance that we can find here? People are really into it and really want to help make sure that the game is as good as it can be, basically.
Yes, and particularly in these type of games, that balance is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
And it's something I've been really curious about, because of course with the demos we only have a small selection of levels, but there's the ability in this game to go absolutely mental and just guns to the wall, firing everywhere, or you can go that really nice stealth route. How feasible is like a pure stealth run or a pure fighting run?
In a lot of the levels, you will be able to completely stealth it if you wish to. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy or easier than doing guns blazing, but it's a possibility. So we always try to give the player, enough freedom for the player to explore their own play style as they wish. Now, there will be levels where stealth will not be possible, just because,
Okay.
no one is spoiled, so I'm not going to say why.
Story reasons, carry on.
Story reasons. But it's a bit like, the completely stealth in the game. So how do I put this? We wanted to make stealth a tool to use in the game.
Okay.
It's not a stealth game or a completely just action game. It's a tool. Either of those are tools, and you can use that tool even while you're in the middle of a combat and you're shooting here and there. You can definitely just pick up one character, sneak around the back. The AI will not know you're sneaking around the back, because unlike a lot of the games, current games, the AI is not aware of you if they don't see you or hear you. So the AI is not cheating per se. So you can definitely just in the middle of the combat, just sneak one guy around and use stealth and get a better vantage point, or take one down from behind, or all that. So it's a tool, and while you can use that tool throughout the whole level, in a lot of the levels, the game is not made to be like a stealth heavy game. It's just another tool.
Oh, that's very interesting. Actually, raised a couple of things there. I'm gonna jump on this idea of the AI can't see you then. So is it true line of sight? Like they must actually witness the character to know what's happening?
Yes. They have to either see you, or if they hear something, they will get suspicious and try and cover flank from wherever you may be coming. But yes, it's true line of sight, much like a third person or a first person. More like a third person, because they kind of peek around the corner. But yeah, definitely line of sight based, and not just grid based or anything like that.
Oh, that's really interesting. I obviously you notice it when you're in the free reign mode, when you're just walking around, but in combat I didn't realize it was actually an option then. That's opened quite a few options there. But considering this, you refer to this as a toolbox. Well, you said it as a tool, sorry.
Yeah.
But that is intriguing. So toolbox design is how I would refer to it, because I come from card gaming where you'd have toolbox decks. So how has a toolbox design kind of influenced your approach to Project Haven?
Yeah, so I think giving players tools, it's the best way to make the game more open, more allow any sort of play style. So we give you a lot of the tools, the stealth, the different types of weapons, melee, the skills, the level up, and all that. We feel like those are tools, yeah, as you said, and and that allows the player to play however they want, instead of being just, this is how you have to play this game if you want to win. We just we try and be, even though the level design itself is a tool. You don't have just one path. You can go pretty much anywhere in that little sandbox that you have. You can go to the rooftops, you can go inside buildings and all that, and you can make your own path, you can make your own play style for that mission. So we feel like that's more how the older games played, again, the classics, and that's something that we wanted to bring back, and let the player decide how they want to do things.
Bringing those mechanics back. There's definitely been, I think this is why it exploded so much initially, was the fact that it's been like kind of a yearning for a return to these classic styles where you had options. You didn't have to do what the game told you to, which is very much the modern way. But in saying even the map is a tool to be used by the player, because there's plenty of elevation in this game. There's loads of ways to control line of sight and actually funnel enemies, which was great fun with a sniper. But how do you go about sort of keeping that pace? Because there is a real pace to this game. It's something I noticed when I was playing, is I was speeding up, I was starting to play faster and faster, making a lot of mistakes because of it, but thoroughly enjoying it. And
it's again, it's a balance like everything else in the game. It's because you also don't want to, let's see, you want to make the objectives of a map fairly clear and straightforward. You know, you have to go there, you have to do something, and that's all that. So you don't want to have the player lose themselves either in the map. You don't want to give them too much of you know, go all around like 1 mile around the map and all that, and give them way too many options. Cause then it just becomes you know, unruly, and you can't really figure out what to do. So it's definitely again a balance of, you know, how many options do we give the player here? What options do we give the player? And then try and design around that, you know. And you also have things like they weren't really much in the demo, but we have things like breaching doors or breaching walls, the cameras, and all that. They kind of like steer the player towards, say, a player that is more stealth based. They may lean more towards those lock-picking situations and all that, you know, and we give them like a little bit of an advantage if they go that path. So it's like, although it's completely open again, and you can take half your team this way and half your team that way, and that's usually the best way to go about it, really. It's difficult, and it requires a lot of play test and figuring out you know, what options to give the player, really.
Yes, and as you said, being a really, really small team, how is that playtesting gone about? Like, what difficulties have you faced going into that?
Well, so currently we have a level designer, Jason, and he's doing an absolutely banging job. And we talk every day. We meet, we talk, we discuss what the level, you know, the missions that we're doing. Like, we're discussing every day. Like, okay, let's do this. Let's think about the scenarios, what the player would want to do, what we want the player to be able to do. And it's something that, you know, every day we're thinking about and we're discussing. And then every weekend we do like a little play test of the levels and all that. So it's something that just takes a lot of time and thought. So there's really no way about it, around it, really. So yeah, that's about it.
No, that's fair enough. Just yeah, just crack on, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I hadn't realized then that the team is actually bigger than I thought. How many, may I ask, are on the team?
It's just 3. It's just 2 of us, me, Joanna, and Jason, which we hired Jason late last year, so he's been with us just about 1 year now.
Okay.
And he's been helping, you know, flesh out the level design and get that content ready and all that. So yeah, not a lot more than 2, but you know, 50% more.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was expecting quite a large number there, but nope, just 1 more person. Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's actually really impressive. Actually getting this far with just the 2 of you. What would you say was kind of the catalyst to bring on a 3rd member?
So it was just really the amount of work that we had. We noticed that, okay, if we want to release this game anytime, you know, in the 20s and not in the 30s, we definitely need to bring someone else in because it's the amount of content we wanted to put in the game, and it's something that we were not willing to compromise, was just far too much for us to deliver in a, you know, without spending a lot more years developing the game. So we focused on what we do best and what we know best, and then we brought in a specialist, a level design specialist, to help us out, you know, flesh out that. So yeah, it's been a great help, really.
Oh, that's fantastic, actually. So would you say that you're on course to delivering all the features that you've been saying so far, sort of thing?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
We've announced the release dates a while ago, 2022. Well, just the release year, and we're definitely hitting that. We are going to have more playtests with the players just to make sure that things are progressing, you know, as we want them to, and as the players want to. But you know, we haven't really decided what quarter of the year, because that will depend on the feedback. And you know, if people think that, okay, this is not really where we want the game to be, then we'll take a bit longer. But again, we are not setting a date yet, just because we want to have that freedom to, okay, we need a couple more months because we want to refine this or that.
That is perfectly fair enough. I don't think I've met a single person in the gaming community that wants a rushed game. So take the time, yeah.
Exactly. I think we've had plenty of examples lately that that's not a good idea.
Yeah. But I was just saying, so obviously we don't want a rush game. We want a ton of content. And there's already been new features introduced in the latest demo. So, can you take me through some of these brand new features? Because these really aren't brand new. I think demo was only a few months ago now. Not even that.
Yeah, 4 months ago. Yeah, so what did we bring new? So we brought a whole new level design. Again, the levels are completely new. We had, actually, like we just implemented which I think was in the latest demo, which was earlier in September, I think. I don't even know. We've had so many demos at this point. I don't know when things went live, but we added like a new mechanic where in cover you can sidestep instead of just leaning. You can actually sidestep a little bit so that you have a better line of sight. Because that was something that players were a bit, it wasn't very user-friendly, where sometimes you lean, but you didn't quite have yet the necessary angle to the enemy that you were aiming at, and you had to go back out, move a little bit to the side, and then line up the shot again. So now when you're in third person, you can just press A or D, and the character will actually sidestep or will strafe to the side. As you don't even have to be in cover. You can just like be standing still and you can maneuver side to side to get a better line of sight. And it just, speeds up the whole process of lining up your shots and all that.
It's kind of a quality of life thing rather than an actual change to the game, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you could already do that. You just had to go back up and then back down into third person. It was just cumbersome. So it's definitely one of those things that, while not a major change, it definitely brings polish and quality of life, as you said, to the game. And that's kind of the things that we want with the playtest as well, to see where those little paper cuts are and try and eliminate them as much as possible.
Definitely. I've got to say, actually, one of the key features I was noticing, I'm just going to double check the name, but it was, as you moved, you're keeping a direction, you're viewing the same spot. I think it was move and look it was referred to. Slice the pie, yeah. But that was really interesting to see.
Yeah, so we had strafe for a while where you could keep looking always at the same direction while moving, just to keep that angle covered, because if your back is turned to the enemy will get an interrupt or will get their turn or all that. So we wanted a way to keep looking at a certain direction. But then we implemented a way that, and this was also one of those quality of life improvements, was that instead of moving to a location and then right-clicking and looking at a different location, because your character was not facing where you wanted, now you just click once to select the location, and then you click a second time to define where you want to look towards at the end. So again, a minor quality of life improvement, but it speeds up the game a lot and reduces friction. But that then brought another thing, like, what if you do that while strafing? So what the character does is like smoothly starts rotating towards the final destination look at location, and it just does that slice the pie effect, which I think is really cool, and it brings back to those military roots of the game and all that.
Yes, the reason it stood out was just as you said, it looked really cool, which is the rule of cool. It always makes for a good game.
Absolutely.
Does it actually have an in-game effect? Like, will that allow you to like preset an attack as you move, so you could hit someone if they came out or anything?
It doesn't, but due to the nature of the game, your character stops if they notice a character. In between a movement, the character will stop if he spots an enemy.
Okay.
This is much like Jagged 2, where if you were running, however many AP you wanted, but you spotted an enemy midway, your character would stop. We brought that back, and so while you're doing that slice the pie, if you spot an enemy, you can then decide, okay, do I want to shoot? And then you just go into third person and shoot. Do you want to continue my movement? And, I'm just like scouting ahead and I don't want to make any noise. Or I want to stop and get back to cover and all that. So it definitely brings you those advantages, and the fact that while you're doing the slice the pie, you are covering more angles that your character couldn't see before. So that allows you to, make those decisions while your character is moving without, getting to your destination and seeing, oh, I'm in a really bad spot. I want to go back. So yeah, definitely has an advantage in gameplay.
Yeah, no, having that pause actually is well, it's not quite an undo, but at least it gives you a chance to recover, really, a little recovery option.
And I feel like it's pretty realistic. I mean, if you're like doing the slice the pie and you see an enemy, then you can decide to, okay, I want to shoot. I'm not just going to continue the movement just because I thought that, okay, I want to get there, right? It's like, oh, now I have to go, right? That doesn't really make sense. So I think the pause while the movement makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think it's a great feature, I think.
Yeah, no, it looks good, and apparently it does give you a genuine advantage in game. That's perfect. Exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. I will ask one thing that actually slightly confused me when I saw it. The trailer says 4K. Is the game 4K compatible?
Yes. We are developing the game in a 4K monitor, really. But yes,
Wow.
it's we're also trying to make sure that widescreen, like this 21 by 9 or larger screens, are well supported as well. So yeah, definitely something that we're keeping in mind and making sure that, whatever peripherals you have, you can play the game without too many issues.
No, that's fantastic. So the support really is across the board from low end to high end. Perfect.
Yeah, we're using Unreal Engine, so it's it's not too hard to support all those settings and all that. So it's definitely something we want to make use of.
Now that is very interesting. I've dabbled in Unreal Engine more just to see what the commotion was about rather than actually do anything real. But what sort of features have you gained from using that engine then?
It's just the tool set that it brings is just invaluable. Having to build all those little features is just extremely time consuming. And I come from a background where I built engines, and it's not something that I was very thrilled to do just for, or to do again for a game or start over for a game. It's these days there's so many good engines, Unity, Unreal Engine, Godot, and there's so many more these days that it's really hard to justify the costs of developing an engine when they already bring you so many features that just really speed up development immensely. It's hard to replicate those. I mean, Epic has like hundreds of engineers working on the engine. It's not something that we can even compete with. So it's definitely worth the cost of having that engine for sure.
Oh, you've brought up a really good point there. Actually, there are so many engines to choose from, and typically it is going to work out a lot better, particularly for a smaller team, to use those engines rather than creating your own. But what would you say was kind of like the selling point that you said, yes, Unreal is for me, I won't go for Unity being the other main engine I hear about?
So I actually worked, my first game development job was with Unreal Engine. This was back in Unreal Tournament, so that was Unreal Engine 1 still. So I had a previous background with Unreal Engine, and back in 2015, Unreal Engine had just come out, and I was dabbling in it as I do with pretty much every engine that comes out, and then we got the idea for the game, and it just went from there. So I was very familiar with Unreal Engine and the principles and the nomenclature of it. So it was just a natural fit for me.
Oh, that makes sense. Stick with what you know. If it's
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So mind if I ask, but so you've been in the industry for quite a while then, if you're going all the way back to the original Unreal Tournament.
Yes, I started in 2000 or 1999, just late 1999, and then I was doing mods for Unreal and Unreal Tournament, and at the time there was this mod called SWAT, and it was like a CS clone. CS was huge at the time, even bigger than today, and because it was really the only type of games like that. But anyway, there were a lot of mods based on the CS idea, and one of them was SWAT, and it was picked up by Atari to be published as a standalone game, and then it was renamed to Tactical Ops. And I worked on that game. The game was released in early 2001. So yeah, that's where I started, and then I did a few more games. I did a stint in visual effects for movies, and yeah, back in game dev.
Yeah. So that's very interesting then. So you've kind of moved around the industry a little bit, going from I'm assuming if it was on. I'm assuming it would be an FPS then if it was copying the original CS kind of multiplayer style then, or
yeah, absolutely, yeah, multiplayer. The formula was exactly like CS, bomb, money, economy, and all that.
Okay.
It was
the classic.
The classic, yes.
Interesting then. How have you found the skill sets transitioned going into a squad-based tactical game?
Well, probably not the development skills, but the experience I have playing the genre, that was the most helpful for sure. It's a genre that I love. It's my favorite genre. So yeah, it's something that I've always wanted to tackle, a game of the genre, and 2015 seemed like the time to do it. So here we are.
Yeah, I was just wondering what brought you to deciding to set up your own indie development rather than turning to potentially even contacts you'd have in the industry having worked there.
Yeah, I thought so. Since we were going for an idea that hadn't been done in quite a while, I think it would be really hard to convince a publisher at the time that this is a good idea, we want to do this and all that. And also we wanted to have the freedom to pivot the game and features however we wanted and however the player feedback, wherever the player feedback took us. So having that freedom was completely worth it. The extra, cost and development time and all that, than having a publisher. Really, that was our thought.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Getting the freedom of choice, freedom to craft the game you want and not what someone else thinks it should be. Sorry, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, 2015. That would have been like the years of the FPS. That was the big one.
Yes.
That's when Call of Duty was really on top then, I think.
Yeah, it was. There really were not even. There was no Divinity at the time, which brought back a lot of the co-op, which is also a big feature in our game. And I think there was just XCOM 1, XCOM 2 wasn't there yet, and yeah, it was not a lot of those types of games were out. And again, we feel like just taking the time, taking out as many time as we wanted to build the game that we wanted and the players wanted was definitely the top priority, more than anything else, really. And we think that with a publisher, that becomes much more trickier to do. Having a publisher that is willing to delay and delay and delay just because you don't feel like this game is completely there yet.
Yes. Yeah, obviously I know nothing about the gaming industry, but being in the archaeological industry, delays are just not something you bring up to management.
Yeah, so it's a freedom, not having a publisher, and not that publishers don't provide a great service or a good service. At least some of them they do, and a lot of people need them. We were fortunate enough not to need them. So we decided to go that route, really.
I'm curious, say you feel like you didn't need them then. Why is it you feel you were in a position to just really go out on your own then?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of the people will struggle with the financials of developing a game. We are fortunate enough that my past work has provided us enough that we could spend some time to craft the game as we wanted. Making a game takes a lot of time, and you can't just not be having any income during that time. So we were in a position that we could do that. So we chose. But again, without a publisher, if you have no means of income, it's very hard to do a game full time. Of course, you can always do part-time, but then the game takes longer, and all that. So it's just a trade-off, really.
Oh, it was very good luck that you were in that position, because we've been able to get Project Haven out of it. And bringing it back to the game itself, you actually mentioned something then that is, well, it was quite a surprise to me when I first saw it, but the multiplayer component.
Yeah. So that was actually the reason why we thought to do a tactical turn-based at the time was that we were playing Jagged Alliance, and we wanted to play it in co-op. I had never played it in co-op. The game doesn't support co-op natively, but there was a mod in BearSpeed's site that allowed you to play the game in co-op. And we're like, oh, I have to try this. And then we gave it a shot. It was just not functional at all.
Okay.
You could play one mission and then the game reset. And it was like, this is not it. So, and again, Unreal Engine had just come out. We were like, hey, let's play around with the idea of, I wanted to do a tactical turn-based. Let's play around with the idea of making a tactical turn-based that has multiplayer and co-op and all that. And, it just went from there, really. Actually, in our Greenlight trailer, or not trailer, on the gameplay video, we were actually playing in co-op. So it was one of the features that we implemented right away. Was the co-op gameplay and support. So something very important to us. We love playing in co-op, and that's why we always bring Divinity, which is a great example of a game that plays amazingly in co-op. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Divinity is a cracking game. I unfortunately have not played it in co-op, I'm afraid to say. But I do remember back in that original demo, there was the split, because you split the team up, and you were just controlling them from different sides. One went to the roof.
Yeah.
Can't remember who, I'm afraid. I just remember it was a woman.
Yeah.
A female character, whoever the character was.
Yeah, the characters weren't finalized then. I don't think. Actually, I think that one character that went to the roof, I think that's the only character that we will have in the final game. The rest were just, temporary. Just
that's actually good, because they looked really cool. I'm trying to remember exactly, but she was like cyberpunk samurai, if memory serves. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Greenlight whole thing, the Greenlight build was really put together in fairly short time. So we still didn't really have personalities or characters all that defined. It was just get something in there, test it out, see if it plays well, and show it to the public. But we do like to bring as much of those roots as possible, and that one character was really cool, so we decided to bring her over.
Oh, that's excellent. I think it's a nice little Easter egg as well for everyone who saw the original, kind of having it still there. I do have to ask then, though, because I've got to admit, I can't remember seeing anything of the co-op since then. I have seen multiplayer, but not the co-op mode. How is that going to look, do you think, in the final release?
Yeah, so the co-op is available on the demo, but it doesn't play exactly how we want it to play. So currently, each player has their own turn. You play with your characters, how many characters you have, and then the other player plays with their characters. We want it to be simultaneous, where we can play both at the same time. It has some issues that we need to solve, which is, if both try to move to the same place, or if they both shoot at the same enemy at the same time. So we want to be careful with those. Of course, you will always have to, cooperate and discuss what you're going to do with your friends. But we want it to be more streamlined and not have as many downtime as it currently does, because you play with one character or two characters, and then you have to wait a long time because your friend is doing their turn. But if you both play at the same time, I think that will play much better. But that's really how we want it to look. It's just a seamless, basically the same as playing in single player, but your friend is controlling the other character.
Well, I was thinking, because in single player, that actually brings up a very good point of there's no initiative. You move around your characters as and how you like. You can be halfway through a move and just switch over. I'm just trying to think, was that choice just trying to get that sort of flow into the game then, or do you just personally not like initiative order?
No, I like initiative. Divinity is an initiative game, and I think it's great. We just felt like it fits more the gameplay that we were trying to bring, it fit more having like the, team turns where one team plays and then the other team plays. Again, like Jagged Alliance, like all those games, even XCOM is like that. We just thought that it would fit more, and I think it also allows you to do more strategies and more tactics if you can play with your whole team at the same time. Then I'll go here, but then I get shot and my whole strategy is ruined. So it's just a different game type. But I think both are completely valid. It just depends what we're going for.
Yeah, they definitely both have their own sort of offerings, if you will. But I do feel the Project Haven one, that system of moving between characters, getting things as and how you like them, I actually think you demonstrated it really well in the demo playthrough of the latest demo, where you were about to snipe a character and then decided, oh wait, I've got this other character next to them, I'm just gonna have a cheeky try. You took out the enemy, so then you had a free sniper shot. Like, yeah, I find that opens a lot more options and gives a lot more versatility to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just like in that example, like if you were playing with initiative, you would have taken that sniper shot because you didn't know if the other character was going to hit or not. But having and again, that's just a different, it just brings a whole different mechanic to the game and different play style. We just, again, thought that it just fits the what we're going for better if it's a whole team. And, having so many, I think a lot of, even the synergy between the characters where you can, throw a stun grenade with one character, then push with the other, and then play off of that depending on how it goes. I think it leads itself more to the whole military tactics and aspect of the game. Yeah, I think that's more. I think it fits better the Project Haven style.
Oh, it's as I said, it's something I've really enjoyed doing, but it does beg the question then in that multiplayer, in that co-op, kind of how would that play out?
Yeah, so that's why we don't want it to be exactly like, one player plays and then the other player plays, because you lose these types of synergies. We want it to be simultaneous. Again, you'll have to communicate with your teammates. Hey, I'm going to throw a flashbang, and then you push that way, or let's try and flank them both from the sides and all that. So definitely something that we wanted to be to allow is to play simultaneously. We'll just have to play around and make sure that all those kinks of players moving at the same time don't interrupt each other and all that. So but yeah, something a few games actually do it that way. Even as bad as it was, Jagged Alliance Rage had co-op that was simultaneously. It was a bit atrocious because every time one player moved, your game would freeze, and it was just battle around. But it did have that simultaneous gameplay, and it worked. So definitely something that we want to have as well.
I think you had a better experience than me if your game just froze. Mine just crashed.
Well, there you go.
That's really interesting then. So we're having potentially simultaneous movements. It does raise a very big question though, because you are going to have to communicate. You're going to have to organize with each other. Is there going to be any form of listening mechanic? As in, if I type into my friend and the character theoretically has to say it, is the enemy going to hear me?
Well, that would be interesting. But you are actually playing as the commander of those mercenaries, so you are not one of those mercenaries.
Okay.
Even in the storyline, you are the boss, although you don't have a physical avatar, which is actually something that people have requested, and we're still thinking about it, but we'll see, maybe for a future release. But you don't have a physical avatar, and characters just refer to you as the boss, and they talk to you and all that, but you never reply. Very Morgan Freeman-like. You never really talk. But so since you are playing as their commander, you would be communicating with the other commander, and not necessarily via the characters. Although the characters themselves, they talk a lot and all that, but the enemies don't hear those barks. They do hear other stuff. If you hurt yourself or if you're bleeding, they can hear you like grunting and all that. So the listening mechanic is in the game, but it's just for gameplay elements, and not if you're running, you make a lot of noise and all that. and not necessarily for the barks that are more flavor, and all that.
That's a mechanic I hadn't come across, thankfully. Apparently I can be heard if I'm bleeding. I'm gonna have to get better at the game, allegedly. Well, no, excellent. So, yeah, so we're hoping to develop the co-op as it moves on, but there is also a skirmish mode. Yeah, what's been happening with that? Because I did see the original showcase of it when it was just a standard building urban environment. You were just running around, having a good time. But has it progressed since? Because I unfortunately don't have anyone I can play games with being here in Japan.
Well, the beauty of a turn-based game is you can play anywhere with anyone in the world, really, anyone that is awake at the same time. Because
yeah, that's the issue, awake at the same time.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that are awake at all times of the day, so I'm sure in the community you can find someone.
I think I might have a look on the Discord.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. Actually, we have some people from Korea and China. I know that. So people that have similar time zones. But you can also play the skirmish mode in single player. Obviously, it's always more fun to play with people, at least in my opinion, or even PvP. But so the skirmish right now, it's a simplified version of what we want it to be. It may actually release like this, or just as a straight up in deathmatch thing. We're still deciding on it, but we eventually want to expand on it and make it more of a campaign without a storyline, or with a very basic overarching, just you have to conquer the world or whatever it may be, and make it like this replayable game mode that is procedural, just as it is right now, and has different objectives and all that. And you just whatever it may be, something that is more dynamic than the storyline, which is a linear storyline that you play through and you feel good and all that. And then you can play again with a different style and all that, but it's still the same story. The skirmish will give you that replay value where you just have those long war, XCOM long war type campaigns where you just grind it out for a couple of weeks and all that. Yeah, that's our idea with skirmish. That's what we eventually want it to become.
So I really want to jump in. So hints there of a skirmish campaign. So are you thinking that will be both for the PvP and the single player aspects of skirmish then?
Hopefully. I think it would be cool if you are playing with a friend, not cooperatively, but competitively, and you're each trying to conquer different places or
trying to claim each other's turf and take the base.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. We still obviously have to design it and think out how it would play and all that, but it's something that we would really like to do. But definitely we will first start with a cooperative or single player, if you wish to do so, more free-form campaign, and then we will implement things on top of it. And we have a lot of ideas that we really want to implement with that game mode and more game modes. We even have ideas of implementing like a survival mode where you just, sort of just have waves, infinite waves of mobs coming at you, or maybe not infinite, but you have a lot of waves to deal with, and then between waves you have to regroup and restock and all that. Sort of like Killing Floor, which is also a game that I really like. You're fighting the Zeds, the zombies, but you have that little piece in between waves where you go and restock and all that. Sort of like that. We have a lot of ideas that are taken from different games and just mashed together, and I think that would be really fun. But it's probably something that we will do more of post-release, and for release we'll probably just have like the basic skirmish mode, and then we'll build on top of it.
No, that's excellent. It's actually something I was going to get to. Is there a roadmap for Project Haven post-release then?
Yeah, again, like the skirmish modes, but we also have ideas of expanding the storyline. There's a lot of... We've built the world of Haven. Although we haven't really talked too much about it, it's actually a very large world where a lot of things are happening, and we have a lot of storylines that we would like to explore, besides the one that the player is playing, and it's something that we want to explore in you know in different updates and potentially prequels and sequels and all that. I mean, we have ideas to go everywhere with this. It's just a matter of getting there and making sure that people like the game before we even get to those. But yeah, definitely something. We have a long roadmap ahead of us with the game.
No, that's really good to hear, because I mean, just as you said, like the city that this game is built around is, from what I understood from the lore, massive. So then, yeah, I mean, there's multiple mercenary gangs going around. There's conflicts between the different characters, even internally within the game itself. Yeah, that's definitely some things I'd like to explore, and I think pretty much everyone's going to want to know the backstory to a fair few of the characters in that game. So prequels would be actually a really good way to explore that.
Yeah, I mean, during the storyline, you will talk with your mercenaries. You will know a little bit more about them and how they came to be and why they are there and all that. But definitely some of the characters will be more mysterious, and they have this past that you won't really know much about. But it's like this ominous thing that there's definitely a story there to be told, and it's something that we want to explore as much as we can, really.
Oh, that's excellent. That's brilliant to hear. And on that note of characters, I did overhear during the playthrough. Well, for starters, there was actually something in the playthrough which I didn't see in the demo I played. I unfortunately didn't get to play the current demo. Moving house, so I haven't had time to do much of anything. But I noticed that you could actually switch characters. And I believe there were 8 characters. Well, 5 we could see, and then 3 we couldn't see.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, are we going to be... There was hints of more? We might be getting more characters?
Yes, you will start the game with 8 mercenaries to choose from. Those are the 5 that are there, plus the 3 that are still like in a shadowy figure like. So yes, you will start the game with 8 mercenaries in your crew, and then you will recruit more along the way in the storyline. You will recruit allies and all that to help you do whatever you will do in the game.
Oh, that's excellent. I was saying that was a new feature. I hadn't seen it previously, and it actually really does open things up quite a bit. Because, of course, this has an RPG mechanic where leveling up skills as we go. We have a nice skill tree with plenty of... currently, I believe you were saying once more in the demo that it's a lot of passive stuff, but there are going to be some active abilities coming in soon. But one of the things I've been wondering is there a limit to grinding? Are we going to be able to grind out to max characters, or is there going to be so many missions and you have to finish?
There are so many main missions. There will be side missions that you will be able to partake in, and you can use those as a way to like grind. Although you can't repeat them, we are still debating a couple of mechanics where you will be able to level up your mercenaries not during missions or not in a mission.
Okay.
Sort of like the training in Jagged Alliance and all that. So we're still debating some ideas and seeing if that's something that is necessary. But you will not be able to grind. Your character will have a max level, and you will only be able to select up to some particular level in your skill tree. So you will have to pick and choose, okay, I want this character to focus on this character to focus on that. And you will be able still to, go quite far in a few of the trees, but you will not be able to fill everything up with every character for sure.
Okay, so is there enough a potential to gain experience then to at least level up each character individually, or do we have
that's
to
our goal,
select?
and that's
okay.
Yeah, that's our goal. That is, we want you to be able to, if your mercenaries will get wounded during the mission, and that will carry over to the next mission if you don't give them a rest. Fairly similar to what XCOM does and what Jagged Alliance did, although you don't really have missions in that game. It's more free form. But so you have to rotate your characters, and the way we are trying to balance it is that rotation of your tired mercenaries will allow you to level up the others. We're still not exactly sure if that will be enough, and that's why we're still pondering having a off-mission training or leveling up that will accompany that, so that you can have everyone sort of at the same point in the game, so that you don't have like a level 1 and a level 30 or whatever level it may be.
That's fair enough. I mean, I will say, having the ability to grind out to max every character is, in theory, nice, but I don't think I've ever done it in any game I've ever played. Because, way too long.
Some people really like that, but we feel like the game is pretty long as it is. As we've announced, it's over 45 missions. And that's gonna take it really depends on how you play, but we expect the quicker players to finish in about 40 hours, and an average player to finish anywhere between those 40 and 80 hours. But we know for a fact that there are people that take 3-4 hours each mission, so that will be like 100-200 hour games for those. We actually have a few testers that play like that, and it's amazing to watch them play because they consider every single little thing, and they do extremely well in the game because they've considered everything. But it just takes them a long time, and they enjoy it, and that's great. I mean, we want people to be able to pay however they want, and I think if anything, that shows that the game has this potential and branching that allows you to think for so long in a single mission. And it's not just, click, advance, because you can actually, if you want to, think out everything, and there's a lot to think about. So...
Just thinking, I'm the opposite. I'm the click.
But again, since the game is so long already, we don't want to have you to have to grind in addition to all that to get your characters to a state where you can progress in the storyline.
Yeah, there should be a natural flow to RPGs where I think as long as you're not playing a JRPG, most people expect to not have to grind. It's more of an optional bonus. I've got to admit, one of the things I was thinking of the grinding more to be useful for actually would be for finances. Yeah, because it does seem like when I was playing the demo, I'm not too sure if the prices are all finalized yet, but I seem to be paid very little for doing a job, and it cost a heck of a lot to arm up.
So the thing with the game is that first you are a beginner mercenary crew or a new mercenary crew, so people are not willing to pay you very much for your services. But one thing with our game is that you can pick up your enemies' loot. When they drop their whole kit, their weapons, their magazines, whatever they had in their inventory. You can pick it up, bring it to base, and sell it. And that's going to be where you will, get a lot of your funds, because people are not very generous in Haven City, and they'll not pay you a lot. You're just,
Yeah, that was my method, actually. I was just flogging pistols.
Yeah, so that's one thing that also is one of those paper cuts that we were talking about earlier, where picking up stuff, you end your mission and you have to go and pick up stuff and all that, and it's a bit cumbersome. So we are going to have like an end screen where you can pick up stuff, choose what you want to pick up to the limit of your mercenary's carry ability. That depends on your character's strength and skills and all that. So at the end of the mission, you can go ahead and just, okay, I want to pick up this, and this, and that's it. I can't pick up anything else because my characters are full. So just a quality of life. It's not extremely realistic, of course, but it's just one of those things that having to go and pick up the weapons at the end of the level is just a pain, and we don't want players to have to suffer through that.
It's a very interesting choice, actually, from a gameplay perspective, because I was rationing space to ensure I could carry. If I, early on in the mission, I find a very expensive rifle like an SMG or a sniper rifle, I was holding on to it, which meant that I couldn't then pick up stuff later on.
Yeah, we're still playing around with exactly how it's going to go, because as you said, having to pick up stuff earlier limits your ability, to move, because you're waiting more, but then at the end you get a reward because you get the price of that weapon. So we're still debating exactly how that's going to exactly work, but we don't want players to have to, at the end of the level, go through all the weapons in the level and backtrack a whole lot, because that's just not good gameplay. But we also don't want to give you all that advantage of, okay, I don't have to pick up anything. I'm just going to bring the lightest kit possible and then just pick up stuff at the end. So it's something that we want to play around with and see exactly how we can implement that and balance it out.
Oh, that's that is really interesting. It's yeah, I can see both arguments. It's that's a hard one. That really is a hard one. Well, good luck finding a balance for that.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, that's excellent to hear that all the developments coming through. I do have a quick personal question before I reach the end of my long list of questions for you. I do apologize for taking so much time. This has been really nice to do.
No worries, no worries. It's always good we always like to talk about the game and let people know more about it and all those little details, because people are curious and people are interested more, and so we definitely want to let the people know more about the game and all that.
It's been fantastic. But I do have as I said, like just a personal question on one of the mechanics in the game, because once more I see this as a pretty big game changer in how turn-based strategies work, and that is the choice to provide freedom during the interrupt. So typically, when doing any kind of interrupt attack or reactionary attack, it is an automatic. But of course, in Project Haven, we're getting the ability to control the character, which I actually found out you can also use, such as the standout sidestep. You can use your lean. Yeah. That's a pretty big offering to the player. What about this mechanic?
So, well, it's similar to Jagged Lines 2, which is our inspiration there. But again, it comes down to the immersion. Like, your character has spotted someone, like, what is he gonna do, right? Instead of the computer just deciding for you that he's gonna shoot right away or he's gonna shoot anywhere, it's like, what is your character gonna do at this moment? Is he gonna try to go for the headshot? Is he gonna try and quickly lean out and shoot? And we wanted to give the player the freedom. Also, so if we were going with the real life counterpart, it would be like you would take your shot and then you would get into cover. But if it's an automatic interrupt, you would just shoot and stand there. But since our game has like the lean mechanic or the step out mechanic, we want to give the player the freedom to decide, okay, do I want to spend the rest of my action points to get a better aim, so spend my AP on aiming points, or do I want to leave a couple of AP so that I can get back into cover? You want to give the player that choice, like, what would your character do? So we think that this allows you to do that instead of just being an automatic fire and then that's it and you're done.
Yeah, it's that tool case once more coming through, providing the options to the player. No, that's very much fair enough, and I've got to say, it does actually plays really well. Just for the reason you said, you take the shot, you can duck. Often I'd actually overextend. I don't know what it is about Project Haven. It really does make me play aggressively. It's good. I've enjoyed it.
Well, it's however you are enjoying to play the game. That's how we want you to play the game. If you want to just go, guns blazing and just shoot everything and everyone. If you want to take like the sneaky route, if you want to do something in between, we just want you to have fun playing the game however you want, and that's why we give you that toolbox, and then you can do with it whatever you want.
Sneaky till failure. That's my method. Sorry about that, everyone. We are back to little camera malfunctions. But yes. Thank you so much for all the time you've given. I've just got a few quick questions for the end.
Yep.
And that is, if you could go all the way back to the start, would you do anything different in the development of Project Haven?
That's always a tricky question because, with hindsight, there's always so many things that, it's hard to tell because the process is always a discovery. And, you would have the game that we have today if we didn't go through that discovery, and that discovery is what allows you. So obviously, with the power of hindsight, we would have made the game that we are making now. And
true.
But it's hard to stay. One thing that I think we would maybe do slightly different maybe we would start with a smaller portion of the game and release it faster, and then continue developing from there. Because we had the idea for the game, but I think there's some natural points where we could have, natural point in the storyline where we could have stopped and then proceeded with like an update or continual updates to the game, and then released it that way. I think that would have been a better solution than people waiting so long to have the game. But it is what it is. We've decided to go all the way. So yeah, but that's maybe like the only thing that we would have changed. But again, it's hard to say with the power of hindsight. But yeah.
Yeah, obviously, always looking back, you can pick out the details. But I do actually fully agree with what you said. You wouldn't be where you are now if you hadn't have done what you did. So
yeah,
which even if you could change something, maybe you shouldn't have because it's worked really nicely.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm curious then. So you're saying that you didn't implement this natural pause, this natural stop in the story. Is that why you haven't released onto early access then?
So not quite. Early access is a conscious choice that we did, or to not have early access was a conscious choice that we had. And the reason being an indie game and being our first game as a company, or any game for that matter, indie game for that matter, if the game releases to bad reviews or mixed reviews, that game is dead right away, and no one is going to pick up on that game anymore. So, and we did not want, because our game is very complex, it has a fairly steep learning curve. We want to smooth that out as much as possible and make sure again that the UI is comprehensible and all that. And if we release the game to early access, we risk ourselves getting bad reviews for stuff that we could have fixed using playtest and all that. So it's a conscious choice to make sure that the game is as polished as it can be before it is released to public reviews. That may, be detrimental to the success of the game in the long run. So it's a conscious choice in this case.
No, that's actually a very fair choice. I hadn't really thought about that, but yes, of course, as well as the success, it does have the potential to really damage the game and of course the company as well. But you did actually bring up something very interesting there, saying about it having a very steep learning curve. A lot of the features actually I already knew how to play, and that is to say that you'd been releasing on Twitter some really good videos on all the different mechanics of the game. And
we're trying to do, for people that have played this type of games, like the more complex one, the Jagged Alliance, those people will naturally catch the differences really quick and adapt really quick to what the game is all about, and they will naturally start playing the game really easily, or people that have been following us for long. But a lot of the people are coming from the XCOMs, the Shadowruns, the games of today, and they aren't used to having to manage so much of their characters. And while they may love it, they may not exactly know what's going on. And again, that's where the learning curve comes from. So we want to make sure that we have proper tutorials and a proper progression that the player starts to understand. And the people that already know it, they'll just fly through it real quick, and then they're in their usual game. But so it's something that we are very cautious about and very careful about. It's making sure that the experience for the players that are not used to these types of games, or even new to the genre. We've had some people that seen the game, seen the third-person aspect of it, and they were like, "Oh, I've played third-person shooters. Maybe I should give this a try." But they never played XCOM or anything. So it's completely different, and they may even enjoy it a lot. I mean, they never played a game of the genre, so it may be something that they really like, but they just never explored. And we don't want to alienate those players, so we want to make sure that the game is as a smooth of a learning curve, even if it's a fairly long learning curve. We want it to be as smooth as possible so that you pick up all the little details of the game, and then eventually you get to the more advanced things like slice the pie, which you don't need to do, but it's a cool little thing.
I was thinking, to be honest, the main thing was that the tutorials you've been doing previously and the demonstrations of mechanics now have all been really good. Can we expect some more going forward as new features are introduced?
Yeah, absolutely. We already have a few changes that we need to do to the current tutorial due to changes that we did, including the one where you click once to move and then click a second time to define the location. We don't have a tutorial for that, and that will simplify. That was actually one of the biggest struggling points that players that came from XCOM had when they came to Project Haven, was that in XCOM you don't need to look anywhere. Your character sees.
Yeah,
360.
facing just isn't counted.
Yeah, and you can shoot any direction. And people were really struggling where I can't aim enough to the left, and they weren't really used to having the idea of, okay, you need to turn your character. So this little change that we did, that should simplify things a lot for those players and for everyone in general. It's a great feature. So it's something that we need to put in the tutorial so that players know how to. And so to answer your question, definitely the tutorials will progress with the game as the game evolves and all that. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, excellent to hear. Go on. Well, I've only got a couple more. Sorry. What would you suggest for people looking to enter the development industry then?
Well, if you are just entering the development industry with no experience, start small. Grab a couple of friends. Enter some game jams. Do a little game, go from start to finish. You learn so much going from start to finish. You learn way more doing that than just starting projects over and over again. And even if you are getting better at starting a project, if you don't finish it, you will never know what you have to do to finish a project. So definitely start small, grab a couple of friends, do some game jams, do some little projects and all that. And then, go from start to finish on a small game. Like the smallest game you can think of. And then start that way, and then eventually you will, okay, I know how to do a game, now let me add more features and add more complexity and add all that. And there's so many good games out there these days, indie games that are small and have this niche mechanic that just works perfectly, and try and grab that type of games first, before you go for an MMORPG, which is like what everyone wants to do as their first game.
Oh, that's interesting, because that's very similar actually. I originally was trying to get into writing, still am a wee bit, but it's very much the same advice. Just finish a book and then start worrying about writing a novel. Oh, excellent. Well, of course, to finish us off, where should people go to find out more about Project Haven?
So our Steam page has links for everything. I think you can just Google Project Haven and you will get the link to the Steam page. And from the Steam page, you can join our Discord server, which is where we are. We're there all the time. If you have any question, we answer as long as we're not asleep. We are there and answering questions and all that. So if you have any questions or if you want to know more about the game, check out our Steam page. We have all screenshots there, more detailed descriptions of all the features and all that. And if you want to talk to us and talk about the game and just give ideas or feedback or whatever it may be, join our Discord.
Oh, excellent. Go on. I'll making sure I put all the links in the descriptions, and of course in a comment I'll pin at the top for anyone who wants to go check it out. Hey. Well, yes, thank you very much for joining us, Sergio, and till next time, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Peace out.
Bye.